Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. I have a colorful all die cut card which has been paper pieced. These are so much fun to make. This card features Spellbinders' new Colour Block Cloudscape. It comes with 3 different cloud profiles in 3 different sizes, making it appropriate for any size card. At the risk of sounding a bit repetitive, this is part of the Colour Block collection and I have coordinated it with the Colour Block Landscape die set. I cut out the landscape first. This is one solid die, and so I just put pieces of cardstock over each of the sections and die cut them. The same color cardstock is used in the sky as it is in the foreground. To begin my sky where it meets the horizon, I'm going to use the landscape die and just cut that edge so I'll have a perfect fit. I had to cut this a second time. This time I'm making sure that my cardstock is the correct width of the A2 size card, 4 1/4 inches. Before I ran this through the die cutter, I did trim down that soft navy cardstock so it was also at a 4 1/4 inch width. Just makes things less confusing to have everything the same. By die cutting 2 pieces of cardstock at once, I'm going to be assured that my second piece of the cloudscape is going to fit perfectly along the die cut edge of the pink one. The A2 size cardstock is just a guide to help me to get things to more or less the right size. I want to add in another layer of cloud, so I will make some adjustments. Before I make any changes to correct the height, I'm going to go ahead and start piecing together the landscape. To start the paper piecing, I'm simply going to turn everything over, put it together like a puzzle, and use a little bit of Scotch tape to hold everything in place. I am going to be making a couple of extra cuts, and it is going to be a lot easier to manage with all of these pieces of cardstock held together. All of the pieces will be put together right from the bottom of the landscape to the first section of the sky. And as usual, if you see anything that grabs your attention, you can look at the product details by finding the links in the description of this YouTube video or on my blog at bonniecarolee.com. And just like that, the landscape is put together. The Colour Block Landscape die set also comes with a circle die, and I'm going to use this to cut a sun which is peeking out from behind the horizon. I just need a scrap of the amber cardstock, and I have die cut it with the top of the landscape die. The edges of both the amber and the pink cardstock are lined up. I place my circle die and die cut them both. Then I can go ahead and put the pink section of the sky on my landscape that I'm building, and my sun will fit perfectly in the horizon. And I pop on another little piece of Scotch tape just to hold it in place. And this is where I'm going to make the adjustment in the height. The soft navy section of the sky is going to be overlapped with the pink one, and then I just place one of my cloudscape dies over top. When I run it through the die cutter, I'm going to end up with a perfect match between the pink and the blue section of the sky. So again, I flip it over and use more Scotch tape to hold that in place. Now there will be enough room in the height to create another layer of clouds using the blue-violet cardstock. The soft navy cloud layer is overlapped on the blue-violet cardstock. The die is put in place and it's run through the die cutter. And a little bit of tape holds the last layer of clouds in place. Okay, so now everything is fitting together, and I'm going to use one of Spellbinders' rectangular dies and cut my panel. Well, I've used enough Scotch tape, and believe me, those paper pieces are well secured. The final measurements for the card front are 3 5/8 by 4 7/8 inches, and it is being mounted on a piece of black sheet foam. The happy birthday die cuts are from Spellbinders' layered mix and match sentiments. They have been die cut from both blue-violet cardstock and black sheet foam. The foam die cuts are left in the backing, and I just removed the centers of the letters that will be used as registration marks for lining up the cardstock sentiment to it. Glue is applied to the sentiment. It will go outside of this fine lettering, but that is not going to be a problem. There is an impression where the foam die cut is, so it's very easy to align the cardstock one to it. I use the craft pick to make any final adjustments. Then I just use my finger to press it down to make sure that there's good contact between the cardstock and the foam. After taking the time to add some dimension to my sentiment, I do not want it to slip out of alignment. It will take a little bit of time for this foam back sentiment to dry, so I set it aside for roughly 10 minutes before I remove the excess foam. So it's a good thing there's always something else to do, so I go ahead and mat my A2 size card base with black cardstock. And then I'm ready to mount my foam backed paper pieced panel. A craft pick comes in very handy for removing the excess foam from the sentiment. This is a fine sentiment, and I don't want any glue to smear on my panel. So before I pop it in place, I dab it off on some paper towel to get some of the excess glue off. And then on goes the second half of my sentiment, and then I'm ready to start embellishing. I'm using a rainbow satin mix confetti. I picked out confetti that reflect the colors found in the sky and the landscape. And I'm pretty sure I don't need to say a thing, but I will. I finish off the confetti with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. I just love the jewel-like appearance. And that wraps up this card featuring a new addition to Spellbinders Colour Block collection. Colour Block Cloudscape is very versatile and can coordinate with any stamp or die set. I love that the dies are in different lengths, making it appropriate for any size card. I hope you enjoyed this video all about paper piecing, and as always, I appreciate your visit.